Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Coaching Lab. So, this is the July's Coaching Lab, and we do these once a month. It's a completely free workshop just for coaches and potential coaches to get together, to deepen skills, to really have kind of a playground, to deepen things, to embody. I'm really so committed to helping coaches have spaces where we're not just learning things in our head, where we're having places to practice and play. So we're going to get to engage with some things today and learn and grow and deepen. Again, whether you're brand new or considering becoming a coach or you've been doing it for years, I really think that today's conversation has the potential to really deepen the way that we listen. So listen to our clients, listen to our partners, listen to our children, listen to the friends in our lives. It's just deepening those listening skills. You're going to grow your emotional intelligence. And I think a lot of where people lean into as coaches is like, how do I ask better questions, which is really important. But I think even beyond learning to ask better questions, over time, I've just become really convinced that great coaching doesn't begin with better questions. It begins with how we hear and just learning how to hear differently. Two coaches can listen to the exact same client, and one hears the problem that the client is presenting and the other hears a belief that they're believing. One coach might hear the behavior that's going on in the situation, and another coach has tuned their hearing to be able to hear the identity that's underneath that. One immediately starts trying to solve, and the other really just becomes curious. So it's a different way of hearing. And today I want to help us develop our listening so that we're listening at that deeper level. It really creates the conditions where clients can begin discovering things that they couldn't see before. In my experience, that makes all the difference in our coaching. So my name's Talie. I coach leaders, have a private coaching practice, and then I also train coaches. So helping get coaches certified through ICF up through the PCC level. I also mentor coaches and lead retreats. And I founded Certified Coaching Academy because I saw a real gap in the coaching industry. I saw a lot of coaching that was teaching like kind of in an academic way, the competencies, teaching like here's how you should coach and frameworks, and all of those things are important. But I think there's the real powerful coaching embodies a lot of that. It's not from up here, it's from this really embodied place, learning how to be incredibly in tuned. And I think masterful coaching just drops down to a whole different level. And I really wanted to bring that into the space. So we do a lot of embodying the actual human skills that are required to hold transformational conversations. I'm just going to throw this out. I want it to be interactive and fun. What are the things you feel like we're listening for as coaches? What are some of the things?
Emotion.
Yeah, we're listening for their emotions. What else? Great. Thanks, Susan.
Fear.
Absolutely.
Goals, desires.
Yep. Goals, desires.
Resistance?
Absolutely. Yep. Noticing where the resistance is coming. Great, guys. Really, really good. And a lot of times it's hard not to listen for the problem because that's usually what our client comes with. They're coming with, here's where I feel stuck. Here's where there's like the problem. And it's really, really easy to steer into solving and wanting to solve with them. But what we really want to tune ourselves to listen to is the lens that our client is seeing through. So how is the client seeing the problem? When we lean into that, that's where we're going to go so much further with our client. So why this matters. Have you ever coached someone who you feel like seems incredibly capable, but they couldn't see it? So maybe they dismiss a lot of compliments, or they minimize their successes, or they question their decisions. And no matter what evidence existed, they kept arriving at the same conclusion about themselves. You guys ever had that? Just raise your hand if you've had a client like that, or even a friend, where you're like, oh my gosh, I wish you could see what I see. Like you see so much capacity in them, so much capability, and they're just like, they're looking through this lens that isn't even necessarily true. So here's what I've learned that most people don't experience those statements as belief. They experience them as facts, you know. A lot of times when clients are dismissing those compliments or minimizing their successes or questioning their decisions, they're not seeing that as a lens they're seeing through. They're experiencing that as their reality. They experience it as a fact. That's why simply telling somebody that that's not true. Like, I mean, I'm sure we've all tried to do that with our friends. Like, oh my gosh, no, you look amazing. Or no, like you're so capable. Like this, and this. And you're like pointing out evidence. And from their perspective, they're just not seeing it as reality. So that's why learning to hear the limiting beliefs that they believe really matters so much. So we can help them really become aware of the lens that they are seeing themselves through. I think when people have awareness, it really creates choice. And when they have choice, that's where change really can happen. So there's a story I want to tell you about. I created a retreat in Italy and we got to go to Florence for a day and a lot of us went to the gallery where the statue of David, Michelangelo's David was, and just standing in front of that in this, I mean, it was a stunning gallery, just all of these beautiful sculptures and just staring up at the statue of David was just like really breathtaking. And there's one of my favorite quotes is by Michelangelo and he talks about how he didn't create the statue of David. Like he's the artist, he's the sculptor, and yet he feels like he didn't create David. He talks about simply seeing David in the block of marble and just cutting away everything that wasn't him. And I think that's really powerful when we look at that's from that same viewpoint as a coach. We're not trying to fix anything, we're not trying to solve any problems. We're simply seeing the truest version of that person and we cut away everything that isn't them. So those limiting beliefs that aren't them, we help cut those away. Those old stories about themselves, we help cut that away. The patterns that they've created over time, we help cut those things away until what is left is the truest, most beautiful version of who they are. I love that story and I love that analogy because it takes so much pressure, I think, off of us as coaches and even us as a person. Like who we are, we did not create, you know, and we're not trying to create. We're trying to reveal and take off the things, the masks that we wear, the layers that we wear that we think are going to get us accepted or make us presentable or keep us from being hurt. Those are the things that actually when we can remove the truest version of us is already there. We're already complete and in our fullness. So I love that story. Imagine standing in front of a block of marble. You know, like a lot of times what people see is just the blocks. So how do we tune our sight to be able to see the masterpiece that is inside of the marble? The heavy, solid, ordinary block of marble. How do we tune our ability like Michelangelo did to see David? And the reality is that the truest version of our client is there, even though there's a lot of things that get in the way. So I think it's remarkably similar. Our clients often come to us, you know, they're in their fear, they're in their shame, they're in their perfectionism, their people pleasing, their insecurity, their self-doubt. And after years of living with those beliefs, they no longer can distinguish between the belief and who they are. So just like that solid rock of marble, great coaches begin seeing the difference between the block of marble and the masterpiece that's inside of it. So gentle curiosity, compassionate reflection, beginning to uncover what's really there. And we create that through so much of the trust and safety that we build with them. So that's why I believe in my heart that coaching is not about fixing people. It's really about uncovering the masterpiece. So, what stands out to you about that story and your experience in working with people, whether it's professionally, full time as a coach, or just in the work that you've done in your life that has you thinking, I might be really a good coach. Like whatever that is, you've worked with enough people to know there's something here. So, what stands out to you about it? I'd love to just hear from some of you the parallels between Michelangelo's work and the work of coaching.
Talie, I love helping people to see the beauty that is already there in their personalities, in their way they're living their lives, and to help them to remember what a wonderful person they are.
Hmm. Absolutely. That's so good.
And Tally, I think a reminder from what the story was that you just shared about Michelangelo is he was arguably one of the greatest artists in the world ever.
Mm,
And I think that we, as professional coaches and people that care about other people, need to remind ourselves that we don't have the answer for that person.
hmm. Yeah, that is it. We don't have to fix anything.
Yeah,
Even though
Talie,
we might, even though we might know how to do artwork.
I was about to say that, Jim. I'm an artist, and you constantly have to keep before you what you want to see, not necessarily what you're seeing.
Mm, mm,
And there's a big difference because what you're constantly seeing is just a block of wood or a chunk of marble,
mm.
and you're not really creating that piece of work, are you? You're removing the things that keep that piece of work from coming out. So I've discovered that it takes a lot of patience for clients to see what's there because
Mhm.
they're constantly just looking at the block.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had this image as you were telling the story, Tally, of people holding on either to the wrapping or clutching something in their hand. And as we help them relax the grip,
Mm.
some of the falling away happens on its own.
That's so good. And I can feel it as you say it. It's really beautiful. I had an experience once that it's similar to this conversation. And I was just having some time with God. I was journaling and I had this really clear picture. Like I just had this picture in front of me. And it was a picture of me. And I was standing in front of this full length mirror, like one of those ones that's like an oval on a stand. And it was like I was in an attic or something, but there was this light just shining right on me. And I could see all around me were like layers of clothes and hats and scarves like around my feet. And I was standing in this beautiful, like white, it was like an evening gown. And I had this instant knowing of what was trying to be communicated to me. And it was just this like when you can feel safe enough to take off all these layers that you've thought you had to wear to be presentable, to be loved, to be accepted, to whatever, the things I thought I needed to wear. When those can come off, like what is underneath all of it is actually the most beautiful. And so I was like, wow, it was just a very profound experience for me, but it reminds me a lot of what we're talking about and what you just said, Lynette. And I think we really create that in so many ways with our clients through the trust and safety that we build with them, where they can like let down the mask, they can take off the layers that they think they have to wear and just begin exploring what's really there. So, so beautiful. Thank you guys all. So, if that's true, then why do you think people can't see it themselves? I want to look at a little bit of neuroscience that I think is really fascinating. So, if there really is a masterpiece beneath the marble, why can't people see it? Elise, were you going to share something? Yeah.
Yeah, I was when you were when everybody was saying things before, I was thinking like, okay, it's for me much easier to see it in my clients than to see it in myself. So I loved Segun's contribution because it reminded me of we should have that future self in mind, like our future self and maybe true self to really, but to do it for ourselves it can be really hard if society is putting like demands and yeah, giving us an example from a model or something and we don't fit into it and so yeah, that was my thing, like okay, it's much easier to see it for me as a coach for a client than for myself.
It's so true because as the coach, we don't have the years and the layers of lenses that our client has come to look through, basically, like those things get formed at such a young age. We're such meaning makers. And that's a lot of what I was about to share is that it's not because, we're weak or we're broken or we're resistant even. It's because our brains are amazing and so incredibly efficient. From the time that we're young, our brains are consistently making meaning of all of our experiences. So things happen, maybe we're criticized or we're overlooked or We had experiences that made us believe that we have to earn love. You know, there are all these different things that happen from the time we're really young, and our brain is making meaning of those things. And it's happening at a subconscious level. Like most of the time, like the science says, it's like 15% of that is like in our awareness, our conscious awareness, and something more like 80 some percent is in our subconscious. And so it's like we're not even keyed into the fact that we're believing certain things. So our brain is wired to make these predictions and these assumptions in order to protect ourselves, in order to keep ourselves safe. But those patterns, they become beliefs over time. And eventually they become so familiar that we stop noticing them. It's really like when we're little, you know, we're like, oh, I have to do this to get loved. Oh, okay, when I dim my light, then I can be safe. Oh, when I make people laugh, then I'm accepted. Oh, when I, you know, whatever those things are that we come to believe, and we start seeing through these lenses. I don't know if you can tell, these are tinted yellow. And so I think, you know, right now I'm aware that I have glasses on and things look a little bit like a different tint. But imagine if I had been wearing these for decades of my life, if I, like they just are always on. It's how the world occurs to us, you know? And, you know, maybe if I had a different set of beliefs, you know, maybe it would be this different color. And that's what would look normal to me. And I go through life thinking everyone sees it like this. This is what it looks like for everyone, right? So we have these lenses that we begin experiencing life through, and it just actually continues to reinforce and reinforce and reinforce our beliefs. We accumulate evidence for like, yes, that looks yellow. I mean, that looks yellow to me. And that's the way it occurs to us, even though it is my lens that is seeing it. And so it's no longer something that we think, it's just the way that we think. You know, the lens that we see through, we see ourselves, we see other people, we see the world through these lenses. And that's why two people can experience the exact same situation and walk away with completely different conclusions of it. One person thinks like, "Oh wow, I really made a mistake there." And another person thinks like, "Oh wow, I am a mistake. Like I am a mistake." And it occurs to them that way. I'm not enough. I'm too much. I'm all alone. Whatever those lenses are that we begin seeing life through. And so the event isn't what creates the suffering. It's not the thing that happened. It's the meaning that we attach to the thing that happened. And once it becomes a lens, you know, it feels like reality, not interpretation. And so we have this incredible opportunity as coaches to tune our own hearing to really be able to see this lens. Because when we can see the lens and we can support people in seeing that lens for themselves, then they have this space that gets created, and in that space they have the power to choose whether they want to keep wearing the lens or not. And so, you know, when we put these glasses on, you know, again, like I can be aware that I'm seeing them, but imagine if I've just always had them on and this is how life is occurring to me. So can you think about a time when you have realized that you've had a lens on that wasn't actually true? Can you guys think of any of those for yourself?
I can share an example. My brother is pretty amazing and very intelligent, and I really thought that all the intelligence, this sounds silly, but all the intelligence in our family was taken by my big brother. That, and I grew up in a time when women were not really respected in the workplace. But I've learned that I am intelligent and that
Yes.
I don't need to compare myself to my brother or anyone else on the planet.
Hmm. Yeah, and that probably formed at a really young age. You probably had several experiences that were like, okay, he got that in the family. Yeah, I can remember a friend like point blank challenged me. She's like, why do you say I don't know when you absolutely do know? And I was like, thought about it for a second. And I was like, oh, I think it's because I don't want to come across like a know-it-all. And so I'll say this thing that I feel with all this conviction in my heart that I believe is true. And then I'll soften the whole thing and kind of dim my light by being like, but I don't know, just to sort of not be a know-it-all. But without her really pointing that out, like, I don't think I would have, I don't think I would have had that awareness that I'm pretending like I don't know something that I know. So I think we have so many ways that we do that. If anybody else wants to share one more, we can take one more. Otherwise, we can move on. Is
I
anything
have
about?
one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one that actually just So everybody knows Talie actually helped me discover for a long, long time. I had this belief that I wasn't wanted. Um, and so I spent a lot of my life trying to prove my worth and trying to get validation from others and, show you that I was good enough so that you would want me. And coming to that awareness in my life, like those actual words, I'm not wanted, and understanding, like, of course I'm wanted. I want me, my children want me, my husband wants me, my family. It changed my whole entire direction. Like something that simple that I've carried my 45 years of life.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's wild because it's, again, if you were conscious of that, you probably would have worked with it sooner, but it's like rooted down in our subconscious belief system. We're not even aware that we're seeing through the lenses. That's what makes it so powerful to like have the privilege of sitting in front of someone and basically being able to hold up a mirror and help them see what they can't see. Because it's like if you have a contact lens over your eye or you have these glasses on and they just become such a part of the way you see it. I mean, it's like a fish in water. They're not aware of that they're in water. They're just in water. That's like it's all around them. It's what they experience. And so when you have this ability as the coach to sort of hold up the mirror and help them see, oh, like you can't see it without something like that. You can't see that you have a contact lens on or that you have this pair of glasses on unless there's something that gets held up and you're like, "Oh, I didn't even know I was looking through that." And those lenses, they change that whatever prescription that is dialed to, it changes your view of everything in terms of how you're seeing out. So really, really wild. So thank you all for sharing. I love the authenticity and vulnerability in here. It's beautiful. So our job as the coach is not to reach over and pull the lenses off of our clients and make them see correctly. That's not our job. But when we can help our clients notice the lens that they've been looking through, when we can help make them aware that there's even a lens there that they're seeing through, then they can begin choosing whether or not that's serving them. And that's how we do it, is we empower them. So I want to talk a little bit about how to do that today too. So here's the question. If limiting beliefs are often invisible, they're often rooted in our subconscious, how do we as coaches begin hearing those lenses? How do we learn to tune our own hearing as coaches to the lens that our client is seeing through? And the answer is surprisingly simple. We just start listening differently. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how do we listen today to help our clients really see that. So thinking about that block of marble, Michelangelo seeing David in the stone and knowing that there was stuff that was not David to cut away. A lot of that I think of as limiting beliefs. The limiting beliefs, the old stories, the patterns that we get in from being young, making meaning of things, looking through these lenses, those limiting beliefs that our clients come with, that we come with, like seeing that as the marble we're cutting away. So the question is, how do we really hear them? And here's what I've noticed, that most coaches often listen for the story. And it's kind of hard not to, because that's usually where the client starts. They're deep in a story and it's all about like the stuff going on that's creating all this internal angst or conflict for them. We start listening for the facts that they're presenting because that's what they're focused on. We start listening for the problem that they're presenting because that's the way it's showing up in the conversation. Listening for what happened, and all of it matters. I mean, all of it matters to some degree in that it's creating the context that our client is finding themselves in. But masterful coaches are listening for something underneath the story. So we're listening to what the story means to the client and really for like what is the client believing about themselves. So a lot of it is rooted in that identity. What do they believe about them? So one of the images that is really helpful for me when I think about tuning my listening is listening with a highlighter. So the way that you feel when you come to a book and you're like, you're not highlighting everything. You're not highlighting the whole story, the whole page. You're like, what things really stand out to me? And so beginning to tune your hearing as a coach, as if you're listening with a highlighter. So only for the moments when someone reveals how they see themselves. So we're going to play with this a little bit, but I think this image is really helpful. So we have the image of, the marble and the masterpiece inside of there. We have the image of the lenses that we see through, and then we have the image of the highlighter. So we're listening for how the client reveals themselves. So we're listening for the lenses, right? So imagine that the client says, "My boss criticized my presentation." Okay, so that is actually the story. That's what's showing up. That's the frustration they're coming in with. Like, oh, and you can tell they're just so frustrated. My boss criticized my presentation. They're so frustrated about it. And then they say, "Man, I've never been good at speaking in front of people." Now we're starting to hear something a little bit deeper there, right? Like what they're believing about them. Like, I suck at this. I can't talk in front of people. There's something that's getting more to the heart of something there. Or they say, "I always mess things up." Like that's an identity statement. That's a like, there's something underneath that like my curiosity has gotten trained over years of coaching to go like, oh, there's something there. I always mess things up. Or they say, "I guess I'm just not leadership material." That would be like highlight. "I guess I'm not dot dot dot," whatever it is they say after that. I'm the kind of person who, I don't know, somebody throw something out there. What could finish that sentence? I'm the kind of person who,
Always takes care of everybody else.
that's so good, Casey. Always takes care of everybody else. Good one and common one. I'm not confident. I'm too much. Um, I'm just, somebody else throw one out.
I'm a burden.
I'm a burden. Yes. Yep. So those are the moments to mentally take your highlighter. You can kind of hear it. I'm always, I guess I'm just not. I'm too, I'm not, I'm whatever, like you're hearing threads of something to get curious about. And it doesn't mean you need to diagnose anything there. It just means you're like, that's a place to explore. That sounds like there's a lens going on here. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to go like, okay, there's something going on here that is rooted in how this person is seeing themselves. Like ding, ding, ding. So we're training our hearing basically to hear the lens. And again, we don't have to know exactly what those are. We don't have to define that as a limiting belief. We can just get curious. We can just hear those statements as invitations to go deeper right there. So they're telling us something about how they perceive themselves, how they understand themselves. Is feeling helpful? Like we're starting to tune it in a little bit more. So one of the biggest shifts I've made as a coach was realizing that I really didn't need to solve the story. They come in with this like, "Oh my gosh, my boss criticized my presentation," and they're like in the story of it and they're frustrated. I don't have to fix that. I can go, okay, there's emotion here. One of you guys said that's one of the things we listen for is emotions. And so there's like, okay, there's something here. Let's explore, and then they say, "I'm never good at talking in front of people." So we just start going like, okay, get curious about the identity that the story was reinforcing. It always begins with awareness and curiosity. So we just start moving into curiosity. So here are some clues for you guys. Listen for like what we just did there, identity statements. Absolutes like always and never. Those are often clues that there's something to lean into curiosity wise. Labels that clients give themselves. Emotional shifts in energy. So we talked about that, the emotions. Conclusions that sound permanent. So when you hear those things, you don't have to assume anything. You don't have to diagnose anything. Just get curious. Just go like, okay, I got my highlighter out. It's sounding like there's some lenses here to explore. Let's lean into this. So we're going to play right now. One of the things that I do in all of all of the different things that I do, whether it's the 12 months certified coaching academy where my students are in to get their certification through ICF, or if it's confident coach, it's my 4-week kind of foundations training that you can just take that. So all of the different things that I do, it's really important to me to bring in the element of play, because I think that in the space of play, that's where we actually embody. That's where we really learn to deepen things. So I'm going to read a paragraph, and I want you to imagine that you're holding the highlighter. So I want you to just think about where you would take the highlighter and highlight, and wherever that is, raise your hand. And again, don't worry about getting it right. There is no right or wrong. We're just all in this, splashing around and playing in the pool or being on a playground, and it's just like whatever your curiosity goes to, it's great because we're just here learning. So just notice what catches your attention. Notice where, if you had the highlighter, you would highlight that phrase or that word. And I'm just going to read this to you. So I've been in this role for almost 3 years, but I still feel like everyone else knows what they're doing better than I do. Every time I make a mistake, I replay it in my mind for days. I keep waiting for someone to figure out that I'm not really qualified to be here. I guess I've never been a very confident person. All right. So what stood out to you guys? I saw hands going up at different times. Awesome. Awesome. So where did you raise your hand, or what words caught your attention? Where would you use that highlighter?
Disparaging themselves and saying that they don't know how to do it properly.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Laura heard a never in there. Yep. What else did you guys
Not
hear?
qualified.
Not qualified. Yeah, that's a ding, ding, ding. Sagun said every time, always, not confident. Good job, guys. Yeah, awesome. It's fun to play in it. So, who wants to share anything about what made you choose that sentence? What did you hear? What was the circumstance or the identity? Anybody want to just share a little bit more? What showed up for you in that play space?
Yeah, I was thinking about the not really qualified because it reminds me of like kind of imposter syndrome. Sometimes I think about that for myself in the past, and you start to get second guess yourself. You start to feel like, maybe other people know more than I do, but here you are because of your expertise and your skill set, and you kind of forget all of that stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh. So that's what came to my mind.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Kanisha. Thank you. Really, really good. So notice how easy it is to kind of get pulled into the circumstances. Like if they would have stayed in that story longer, if they would have been talking about, how this person reacted and, you know, I don't know, just more of the details in the story, it'd be really easy to get pulled into that. So the new job, the mistakes, the pressure, like our most of us are really supportive. And so like our supporter shows up and is pulled into their story. But coaching really becomes transformational when we begin hearing what those experiences have come to mean about the person. So when we can cut through the story and start asking questions that begin helping you get clear about this, and helping, even more importantly, helping the client get clear about the lens that they're seeing through. So we're not just listening for the problems, we're listening for the lens through which the client is seeing themselves. And that's a really different way of listening. In fact, it's really fascinating how little of the story we actually need to have an incredible coaching session. A lot of times I'll just even be like, if it's helpful for you to tell me all the details, we can listen, and I can listen to that, but I don't actually need to know that to help get you really where you want to go. Like you just being connected to the feelings that are here, like that's the more important thing to explore. And so I'll offer, just if you want to use more of your time on the, diving in, I don't actually need the details, but I can tell that what you're feeling is da da da, or it seems like, this is the thing that really is holding a lot of the power for you. I'll just reflect back. So changing the way that we're listening, not for the problem, but for the lens. So once we've learned to hear those moments, and I can tell you guys are already attuning even more just from the practice that we're doing, the play here. The next question becomes, what is it that we do? So a lot of times, like our instinct is to push back on the lie that they're believing, to push back on like, no, you're actually so whatever it is. Masterful coaches do something different. So once we've learned to hear the identity language, what do we do next? So for most coaches, we want to correct. It's like the instinct is to be like, let me take those lenses off. We just kind of want to reach across and take the lenses off because that's what we're like clear is creating how you're seeing it all wrong, right? And so there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. But if a client says, I'm just not confident, And we immediately want to respond with like, oh my gosh, but look at everything you've accomplished. Like, and we want to like celebrate all the things like that we see. We want to be like, but no, you're the masterpiece. You know, we're like seeing the masterpiece in the rock, but they're seeing through this lens. I'm not confident. Um, so, and it comes from a really good place. It comes from seeing their greatness and wanting them to see what we see. But if we really genuinely can start seeing people differently, rather than being like, no, you don't understand. What we want to do is start exploring the lens. Because if we start saying what is actually true, that's kind of like us just reaching across and pulling the lenses off. And what's funny is oftentimes they'll actually start defending the lens even more. They're like, no. And they'll start going into all the evidence that they've accumulated their whole life for why they believe this thing. And it actually can cause them to dig their heels in even more because you're just telling them something that they don't think is true. They're seeing that this, no, it is like I'm telling you, it's yellow. And they have all of this accumulated evidence that they've got over their whole lifetime that has helped them believe this is true. And it's wild because people will naturally defend what feels true even if it hurts them because it's what they have looked through for so long. And so one of the bigger shifts, the greatest shifts we can make, I think, as coaches is moving from convincing into curiosity. If we just come alongside them and get curious with them, instead of trying to replace the belief, instead of trying to take the lenses off of them, we create a space that we actually help them examine it. If we become a mirror and we hold up and they can start seeing like, oh, wow. Okay, maybe they're kind of doing one of these like, oh, that's what we want. We want them exploring it so that they can examine it for themselves because it's a really different conversation than us trying to convince them that they have lenses on and they need to take them off or taking them off for them. So we're going to do a little demonstration. So just listen to the difference. So coach one says, I'm just, or the client says, I'm just not a confident person. And the coach says, well, that's not true. Oh my gosh, you've accomplished so much. You just need to believe in yourself. You can like, what does that feel like? I shouldn't have been laughing. That doesn't make it very realistic. So if we're just like, no, you're amazing. You got to just believe in yourself. Laura, what were you going to say? Were you going to say something? It just doesn't feel good, right? We're like, no, your reality is not true, right? There's something that just kind of feels, uh. So how does that feel when you hear that? What does it feel like? A few responses.
I want to make it stop. It just feels so awful. I just want to make it stop.
Yeah.
Feels like the reaction of a friend.
Yeah.
It's like loving you and that sees it's like well meant and it feels to me like a reaction of a friend.
Yeah. And as a coach, we bring something at such a higher level, like of emotional intelligence, of listening. And so really if we can shift from, again, kind of trying to take the lens off to getting curious. So now the client says, I'm just not a confident person. And the coach says, tell me more about what makes that true for you. Then you're just like coming alongside and with them in it and exploring it together. It feels different, right? Than like, no, that's not true. Look at all the amazing things. Let me just list all of the accomplishments that you have. You're like, tell me more about what makes that true for you. So just notice the shift in that. Nothing was corrected. There was no like, no, that's wrong. Nothing got fixed there. Tell me what's true for you about that. The coach simply is creating room for awareness. The coach is simply bringing the mirror into it where the client can start exploring some of that, can start maybe seeing some of that. And it's just the beginning, but that's the beginning of transformation. So awareness almost always creates lasting change more than an argument is going to, more than like contradicting what the client believes. And it's not that we never challenge our clients. There are times that we challenge our clients, but I think when places of identity are showing up, the more effective place to go to is curiosity. Our goal is to help them become curious about what they've come to believe. People rarely change a belief that they haven't explored or examined first. I've been using kind of the analogy of the mirror, but I think it's a really helpful one. So a mirror doesn't argue, it doesn't judge, it doesn't tell you who you should be. It's just reflecting back what's already there. So when we can bring our clients into that space where they're just able to see, when we don't have to define people, we're helping them see themselves on their own. That's the power that we have as a coach, is to be able to just hold up the mirror. Sometimes it's a limiting belief. Sometimes, it's a strength that they've overlooked. Sometimes it's a story that they've been living out of for a long time, or a pattern that is deeply rooted in their life. And sometimes they don't really have the courage to see that. But when we're there and we can explore it together, a lot of times a lot of courage enters the space, and the mirror is able to just reflect back, and in this safe environment that they've built with you, sometimes they have the courage to start looking at some of those things for themselves, which is really beautiful. So one of the questions that I get a lot is, okay, so now as a coach, I'm hearing the belief, I'm catching the lenses, I'm starting to see through this, like, okay, that's a limiting belief there, or that's something about their identity. And coaches are like, so now what do I know? Like, okay, I'm starting to notice that, but what do I do with it? Like, how do I do this whole mirror thing? What does it look like? And it's not a perfect question that you have to ask. There's not like a right question, a life-changing question, or something that magically unlocks things. It's really the coming alongside and being with them in it and exploring it with curiosity. Here in a few minutes, I'm going to play a coaching session, and I think hearing it can be helpful. It's like just a short little clip. In our certified coaching academy, we get to listen to full sessions, which is so awesome. But in here, we don't have enough time to do that, but we're going to play a little clip. But I will say this first: transformation usually comes through a series of thoughtful questions, not one brilliant question. So we're going to just do a sample sequence of several questions that you can ask, and it just really focus on the curiosity in it, because that's really, it's not problem solving, it's curiosity. So I'm going to highlight a few steps that can be helpful, and then we'll listen to that clip. So step one is just you're noticing. So you notice like what we did a little bit ago, the I'm not, always, never, all of those things. You're like, there's something here worth exploring. So you notice. So just start with what you observed, and you can just reflect that back. It's one of the tools that we do in the Confident Coach is labeling, where we're like, oh, it sounds like, or it seems like. You're just sharing an observation. So I'm noticing that you described yourself as being someone who's never confident. Or I noticed that your energy shifted when you said that. Or you've used a phrase a few times, I'm just, whatever, not confident. So you're just observing, noticing, and reflecting that back, right? So you're just starting with what you observe. That's very ICF. Like, you can't just go coaching things that you're not seeing. So it really needs to be rooted in what the client is bringing. And that's the most powerful place to go anyway, because that's what's showing up for them. Step two is inviting. So next you're going to invite, tell me more. You're like, you invite them to start exploring with you. What makes that feel true for you? Where do you think that belief comes from? Can you help me understand that a little bit more? So you're just beginning to explore with them. So step one is observing, noticing. Step two is inviting and exploring. Step three is like, now begin exploring the belief itself. So what has believing that done for you, or how's it benefited you, basically? Like, we don't hold on to these beliefs. Like, we don't get these lenses in our life because they don't help us. They're there for a reason. They're there to protect. They're there to help us get our needs met. Like, that showed up in all of us. We all have multiple lenses that we wear, and those show up in our lives for a reason. They were there to help protect, but usually those lenses end up hurting us more than they help us. Even though they were helpful when we were younger, they start hurting us more than they help us. So we're exploring the lens itself. So what is that? What is believing that done for you? Or what's it given you? How's it protected you? And then maybe we even explore the other side of it. What's it cost you? So sometimes when you can just start looking at it neutrally and say, you know, what are the benefits and what are the costs? And they're almost like putting it on a scale of like, man, for how much it's helping me, it's really creating a lot of havoc in my life or whatever. You know, they can begin weighing the cost of it. When did you first begin believing that? You can start maybe noticing where did that come in and why is it so deeply rooted in them? What evidence has reinforced that story? So all of those kinds of questions of exploring the belief itself. Sometimes what looks like a limiting belief was once a brilliant survival strategy. They always come in for a really good reason. And that realization alone can create tremendous compassion. So a lot of times when our clients begin to see the lens, they're like, my gosh, so frustrated by it. But really we want to have compassion on the part of them that created that brilliant survival strategy. Step 4 is to expand. So after the client has explored the belief, just begin expanding possibilities. So what else might be true here? If someone you loved heard you say that, what might they notice? What would change if you no longer believed that? What's another way of understanding this experience? We're beginning to open a window for another possibility, giving the client room to consider something that they couldn't see before. So the sequence is about helping them discover their own. So if we give it to them, it's just so much less impactful. It's so much less supportive, long-term helpful. It's just not that impactful. But when we ask the questions and they come to their own conclusion, it's a really different posture. And clients can really feel the difference. It's huge. So I'm going to play a clip real quick. Hopefully you guys can hear this okay. It's short. All right, tell me if you guys can hear it this time. So what's really been on your mind lately?
Honestly, work has been exhausting, and it just feels like everyone else knows what they're doing, and I'm constantly worried I'm going to make a mistake.
Hmm. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I think just every meeting feels like a test, and if I say the wrong thing, I replay it in my mind for hours after.
What makes that so important?
Because I don't want people realizing that I'm not as capable as they think I am.
Huh. I'm noticing something. You're not just describing your work, you're actually describing yourself. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I guess I just never really believed I was good enough.
What makes that feel true?
I've always felt like I had to prove myself to everyone.
How long have you been carrying that? Like, how long has that been something you've like carried around and feel?
Honestly, I think as long as I can remember.
Hmm. So it's obviously giving you something. What do you feel like believing that has done for you?
It's made me work really hard and allowed me to accomplish things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of a driver.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, what do you feel like it's cost you? Like what's it costing you?
I just never really felt like I can enjoy where I am and be content.
Hmm. So if that belief wasn't running the conversation, what else might be possible? Okay. But yeah, notice what happened. The coach didn't ever argue with them. They weren't like, no, those lenses are wrong. They never corrected anything. They never said that's not true. The coach just stayed curious. And each question invited the client into a deeper layer. It's about creating better awareness. And awareness always begins with curiosity. Could you guys hear the curiosity in that conversation? A lot of curiosity in it. Yeah, I want to ask you guys what question felt most powerful to you, but that would be fun for you guys to play with later. So as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought. So because I believe that this changes not only the way that we coach, but the way that we just see people in general. As we go back to where we started and we think about Michelangelo, the block of marble, the masterpiece, when we look at that block of stone that is every client that sits in front of us, you know, not seeing what everyone else saw, not like Michelangelo didn't just see the block of marble. He saw the masterpiece inside. He saw what was possible. And I think that's one of the greatest invitations of coaching, is to really begin learning to see the masterpiece that is in every single person. That image of me in like the gown, if I could just take off all the layers, like what was underneath for me was the truest version of myself, and it was the most alive, most beautiful part of myself. And yet I think that's true for everyone. We feel like we have to wear all of these masks and layers and things. So helping our clients see the greatest version of themselves. So to learn to see differently, not just hear the words, not solve problems, but to recognize the person beneath the story. So today we walked away with three main images: the marble, the lens, and the mirror. The marble reminds us that people are more than their beliefs. They're more than the lenses that they've worn, the things that they've accumulated over the years, the stories that they tell. The lens reminds us that the limiting beliefs often become so familiar that they seem like reality. So again, the lenses that people see through. And the mirror reminds us that our job isn't to convince people who they are, it's to help them see what they haven't been able to see on their own. So as we, as coaches, hold up the mirror and help them see what's really there and give them powerful choice. So when those three things, those three ideas come together, coaching really does change. We stop trying to fix people. We stop trying to rescue them. We stop trying to have all the right answers ourselves. Like, hopefully this takes a lot of pressure off of you as a coach, that you don't have to come in and do it all right and fix things. Like, you can come in and walk alongside them and tune your ears to hear the lenses, and then just hold up a mirror and help them see what's there. So hopefully that takes a lot of pressure off. So we become students of the person who is sitting in front of us. We become curious, listen carefully, we reflect honestly, and we trust that that awareness is far more powerful than us telling our clients what to do, giving them advice, fixing them. The greatest gift that you can bring as a coach is not actually your wisdom, it's your ability to help someone see themselves clearly. I'd love for you to take just a moment as we're wrapping up and think about this one question. What is one thing that you're going to listen for differently in your next conversation? Maybe it's a coaching conversation, maybe it's a conversation with someone you love. What's one thing you're going to listen for differently? And if you guys have a minute, I'd love to hear just from a few of you.
I think I would stop getting hung up in the story more, just focusing on that, because it's very easy for me to let them pull me into a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. That's awesome. Very powerful. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Erin. So the replay of this is going to be on YouTube. So if you guys want to go over there, I think she just put it in the chat and subscribe. You'll be able to see all of these. And I think we're putting other stuff in there too. There's valuable stuff for coaches. And if any of you, for any of you guys who have not already gone through Confident Coach, that's coming up. That's the 4-week training that we get to go into a much deeper dive on this. It comes with the digital training course. It's like 10 hours of training on the competencies, and then 4 live calls that kick off Monday, August 3rd. So now's kind of the perfect time if you guys want to do that, if anybody wants to keep going. I know some of you guys already have gone through that, but yeah, if that would be valuable for you, that's coming up August 3rd. And thanks, Erin. Yeah, there you go. There are the details for that. So good to be with you guys today. We will get you, since you guys are here, you're obviously on the list. So we'll get you the information for the next one. It's going to be coming up in August. Looking forward to it already. And if you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. So good to be with you guys today.